What's going on, guys? It's Tom with StockedUp. As you can tell by the title of the video, this is not going to be the normal undervalued stocks to buy video that I do every single Sunday. This Sunday, we're going to be going over the coronavirus, different scenarios regarding it, new announcements, and different restrictions that we all need to watch out for and be careful of when trading the markets. Like I said, this is not going to be the normal video, so we will go off topic sometimes and we will talk about things other than the markets. This is going to be a very good educational video, letting all of you guys know different circumstances regarding the world, regarding the coronavirus, different announcements, different stock market news regarding the coronavirus, like possible shutdowns, different volatility demands, different things like that. Just stick along with me, guys. It's going to be a long video, but you guys will definitely find it useful. Alright, guys, and the first thing I really wanted to go over with you is I really wanted to address safety. And right now, safety is going to be the biggest concern. I know the markets and everything right now are in free fall, but right now, your guys' safety is more important than anything. Of course, your personal safety is always more important than any type of money or anything. Obviously, you don't want to get sick. You don't want to get the disease, or you don't want to pass away. So really, you want to be very, very careful right now. And I'd really stick to these guidelines, like stop handshaking, just practice good hygiene, wash your hands, use your hand sanitizer. Be careful when traveling right now. I know that they are talking about closing down airlines, so be very careful with the risk of travel because there's a lot of people on those airplanes a lot of the times. And another thing is going to be food safety. So just limit food sharing. Be careful where you get your food from, because keep in mind, like at supermarkets and stuff with fresh food, people could definitely be touching that and etc. So definitely be careful, because it's definitely something that you definitely do not want to take into consideration, because even a Senator Rand Paul tested positive for the COVID-19 or COVID-19. And that's Rand Paul in Congress, guys. So if someone in Congress can get it, you guys could definitely get it. Definitely practice safety and take the proper precautions, because your safety is more important than anything right now. All right, now getting back into the stocks and the market. Right now, we can see that the market, as we can see on this chart here, the S&P 500 level percent change. You can see that the S&P 500 was at pretty much over $3,000 a share. Or / ES futures were over $3,000 a share, whichever one you want to look at. And the S&P 500 pretty much fell down to 2.41 thousand now. So what you're going to look for is that look at this long-term chart, is since 1980, how much the S&P 500 has really risen. And you can see that since 2000 here, the S&P 500 has more than tripled just about. And that's a very, very good sign for long-term investing, 20 years plus. But for right now, guys, you can see this big drop, and you can see how much we've went up in the past. I think that we still have some room to go, maybe down to 1600 levels, where we're going to hit this top right here, right where we were around 2000, 2008 levels. Because in 2000, 2001, the dot-com crash, we crashed, and then we went back up, and as soon as we hit the top, we pretty much double topped here, and then had the 2008 financial crisis. And that's pretty much what we're looking for it to go down to. Is I'm looking for it to go all the way back down to 1600 levels. And I think that if the coronavirus gets as bad as people are saying it will be, we will definitely hit those levels eventually. So right now, investing for the long term, all that I would do if you are investing for the long term is average in. So buy in 25% of your position right now, and then just hold that. And then maybe once it falls down to 2000, buy another 25%. And then once it falls down to 1600, buy another 25%. And then if it goes up to like 1800 or something, then from there, then buy another 25%. But the point is that you just do not want to put all of your money into the markets right now on one specific stock. You're going to want to pick some safer stocks that will definitely go up over a 20-year time frame. Kind of like if we look at this 40-year time frame from 1980 to 2020, that's pretty much what you're going to be looking for now, is 20 years from 2020. So in 2040, what will this chart look like? Will this blue line come all the way down to, the 1600 level and then extend way up here to like a 5,000 level? We don't know. But over the next 20 years, if it follows the same course, that is the course it will take, and it should easily hit those levels, in my opinion. But the thing is that we have to stay on course, and the country cannot go into a free fall right now with this pandemic. We all have to keep our heads leveled. We cannot all freak out right now and start really crashing the markets, because that's really what's going to crash the markets, is everybody freaking out, taking money out of big banks, and then the banks will be caught with their pants down, just like they were during the Great Depression, whenever they did not have any money and they could not give out money anymore. Now, whenever I say freak out, I'm just saying don't go to the bank and pull all of your money out. I would definitely take some out to be safe. And one thing I would definitely do is I would definitely have at least 2 weeks to a month's worth of food supply and water in your homes. It's something that's a very big safety concern, is food, and that's something that you'll definitely want to have stocked up just in case we do end up being quarantined inside your houses for multiple weeks to a month. It's something you definitely want to be careful of, because if you do get stuck inside with no food, no water, that's going to be a very, very bad time for you, as people will have to deliver it, or you'll have to illegally go get it. But the supermarkets and stuff should stay open, so you should be able to go there. But then again, you're risking getting the virus. So if I was you, I would definitely stock up on stuff. If you aren't already, I would have a little bit of cash on hand. I definitely took a little cash out just in case anything happens. And then definitely have self-protection. As always, we live in the United States, so you guys can definitely practice your self-protection. So definitely have everything ready just in case. But you cannot live like it's going to be the end of the world here. Keep in mind, stuff does happen. There was the H1N1, there was SARS, and many more people died from those than have died from the coronavirus, although the projections aren't looking too good. But it's something that you guys just need to be very, very careful of. And you need to have a lot of supplies ready, like medical supplies, food, water, everything like that. You need to have certain shelters and places you can go to just in case. But like I said, just keep in mind that you don't want to crash the markets or anything like that. You just want to have a level-headed mind. You want to be safe, but you don't want to be overly extreme. Like, you don't want to create like an apocalyptic scenario. And by the way, guys, this website is the Motley Fool, or the Fool, whichever one you want to call it. It's called fool.com. And pretty much they put out some decent articles every once in a while, but most of the time they're articles that cost money. So pretty much I just look at the free articles, but you can just scroll down here and see the S&P 500 level percent change charts, and you can scroll down and see different articles like avoiding the fallacy of catching the bottom, and you can just read through this whole entire article if you'd like to. I'll have the link below. It's a very good article. It has to do with investing in the market right now, and it has to do specifically with trying to catch the bottom and what you can do to minimize your loss whenever you're chasing a bottom. One thing to definitely look out for this week is Senator Rand Paul becomes the first senator to test positive for the coronavirus. And that's something that's very scary to look at, because if he's tested positive for the coronavirus and he's feeling fine and is in quarantine, does that mean that he was in the Senate chambers on Friday or Thursday or Wednesday? Because if that's the case, they're going to be quarantining the whole entire chamber. The whole entire Senate chamber will be quarantined if Rand Paul has been in contact with these people. So that's something that's very scary to look into. It could definitely cause the Senate to shut down, or maybe cause an internet Senate session. But it's something that they'll definitely have to look at and try to overcome in Congress, and that's something that maybe this will scare Congress to the point that they start enacting new laws against the public. So it's something that you definitely need to keep in your mind. Watch for new news coming out about the Senate and different stuff like that, because if the Senate and the House is not in session, then we cannot pass the stimulus bills and the packages that we need to get this project rolling, to get car executives like Ford and Tesla and different companies like GM to make ventilators and respirators and different stuff to help people with the disease. One thought that I just had, guys, is that if you think about it, during World War II, the world was at war with people. We were at war with people, right? Right now, the world is at war with a disease. This is almost, if you think about it, World War III with a disease. And right now, the president is going to have different companies like Ford, GM, and Tesla. They're going to start making respirators and different ventilators in their factories instead of making cars. And this is essentially what happened during World War II whenever we shut down production to start making bullets and tanks and planes. It's essentially the same thing that's going on now, except it's going to be going on with different companies like Ford, GM, and Tesla, and it's going on with the disease and different types of drugs. So keep in mind that these companies will definitely get some assistance if they help out with the government during this time. So in the long term, you could look at Ford, GM, and Tesla and look at that after the virus, they're definitely going to get some type of compensation for helping out with production of these different medical supplies. And the reason I brought up this comparing itself to World War II is obviously not the deaths or the amount of people involved, but the thing is that the amount of market capital and stuff that's being lost because of this is going to be very, very similar, I believe, not due to the war, just due to manufacturing processes closing down and factories shutting down, different stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about. I don't mean deaths or anything like that. Obviously, it doesn't compare to that at all. It compares to itself as far as the narrative goes. And the narrative is going to be the companies and the markets in free fall. So if we start looking at the coronavirus as a whole, we can see that there is death cases, as we see 1,700 deaths in Spain alone. There's been thousands of deaths in China too. The global death rate is hit 13,000, it says, with the global cases at over 300,000, which is very, very large. In California, we have 1,500 cases alone, and they're expecting there to be 1 million cases plus in California before this is all said and done. So keep in mind that the spread will be very, very rapid if it does hit 1 million cases in California. And if it hits 1 million cases there, expect millions of cases throughout the whole entire United States. But right now, California and New York, those two states are both on lockdown right now, and those are the two highest capital or highest trade per capita states in the country. So we have our two biggest trade hubs, California and New York, both shut down right now, except for non-essential businesses, or except for essential businesses. And with the two biggest states in the union being shut down right now, that's going to cause a lot of disruptions in global imports, global exports, as well as just straight up factories that are in those two states. As New York and California house a ton of factories, especially California. And you know that California also deals with a whole bunch of farming and agriculture, a lot more than New York does. So if California is on lockdown right now, and if the farmers are not able to get their goods across state lines, for example, that's going to cause a lot of disruptions in the market. But I think they're going to really try to keep the agricultural markets up, and they're going to try to make sure that food is still getting to people, because if food does not get to people, expect mayhem to start, as people need to eat, and if they can't eat, they're going to start finding food any way they can. And that's something that the government knows will happen, so they're going to really make sure that people have food, I believe. But just keep in mind that with the two biggest trade hubs shut down, it's going to cause a lot of problems for the Union of the United States of America, especially the markets, considering the S&P 500 and the New York Stock Exchange and everything in New York. Even the NYSE shut down its trading floor. Monday, they're going to go to all electronic trading, which, I mean, I can't believe they haven't done that yet anyways. But still, it's going to definitely cause a lot of disruptions for the market, for the NYSE, for trade, for exports, pretty much for everything right now. So it's just something that we just need to watch, and we need to be very vigilant. And something that we can do is we can watch, and as soon as this is done, we can really start looking at investments. And whenever this is all said and done, that's going to be the best time to invest in the markets. Trust me, the best time to invest is whenever the market crashes. 2008 would have been the best time for people to buy stocks if they would have bought at the lows. For example, Bank of America was like around $3 a share and ended up hitting $30 a share 10 years later. So that would have been a very good 3,000% gain on just Bank of America stock alone. Keep in mind, though, during 2008, a lot of people probably thought Bank of America might have went out of business. But that's something that you need to keep in mind, because the news is going to definitely try to scare you, and they're going to tell you all these companies are going out of business and all that stuff, just like they did with Tesla. Whenever Tesla was at $200 a share a year ago, for example, everyone was putting out articles, Tesla's not going to be around for a year and all this, and then their stock goes from $200 a share to $900 a share. So that right there should show you not to trust the news, especially stock news, considering a lot of people who have a lot of money in stocks also own a lot of these newspapers like Bloomberg and people like that. They have a lot of money in the markets, and they can definitely influence people based on what kind of articles they put out. And you have to look at that with the government regarding the coronavirus, is that they can really manipulate us depending what kind of articles they're putting out. And you can see all these articles regarding death cases and new updates regarding new transmissions in California and all these states shutting down and everything like that. That's all causing chaos. They want to cause chaos. They probably there's been articles come out that senators have actually sold their stock. There's been some Republican senators like Richard Barr and Kelly Loeffler, and Kelly Loeffler is actually the wife of the CEO of the New York Stock Exchange, and she sold millions of her shares before this pandemic happened because she had a briefing on it. Now, keep in mind, a few Republican senators did this. Dianne Feinstein, which is a big Democrat senator, she also did it too. A few Democrats are also on the list. So Republicans and Democrats are both doing this right now. So keep in mind, it's not a political issue. It's just an issue of that these senators, they knew this was going to happen, and they sold off their stocks before it happened, and now they may get caught for insider trading. And I really wanted to bring up insider trading because it's something that could very, very largely affect us. Because if you think about it, Congress is legally allowed to buy and sell stocks whenever they please. So if you think about it, they could essentially buy a stock and then make a law, and then that affects the stock, makes the stock go up, and then they'll sell the stock. And then, maybe the stock will then fall a little bit more. But that's something that they do all the time, and it's happened for years. That's how these lawmakers go into office, with maybe like $1 million, and they come out with $20 million. It's not rocket science, guys. It's common sense. They all trade using insider trading because they all get the briefings on the news and everything that's going to happen before we do. For example, they knew about this coronavirus a couple weeks before we did, and a few of them sold their shares over it. And it's something that maybe the public should have known then. It would have been a very good thing to know. Kind of like if you're the owner of a company, like let's say Elon Musk, for example, if he buys shares of Tesla or gets shares of Tesla, he has to report that. And then that gets put out into a report, like an investor report. And then it'll say CEO, of Tesla buys, $5 million worth of stock, or $50 million worth of stock, or something like that. And then that's how the report will look. But if we go to finviz.com, we can see all of those very, very easily here. Finviz.com. And then you can just scroll down here to insider trading. Latest insider trading. You can see all this down here. So it does happen, and it has to get reported. But the thing is that whenever they're in Congress, they don't have to report that stuff. They can just trade it like they're their own private citizen. And that's what really is going to affect the markets, is that these congressmen all knew what was happening, and they sold their shares. And as we can see in the report right here, Dianne Feinstein, 3 Senate colleagues, sold off stocks before coronavirus crash. And that's something that they sold off millions of dollars worth of stocks. It's not like they just sold off a little bit. They sold off millions of dollars worth of stock, which is something that's very, very demoralizing. It goes against almost every moral that any congressperson should have in the United States. But it's something that if you had millions of dollars in the stocks, would you have done it too? I mean, I might have. It just depends, but it just, it all depends on what kind of circumstances you're in and how much money you have and etc. But it's something that is definitely going against the American people, and it's just not right to do. It's insider trading for sure. They're definitely going to do an investigation into it. I believe that Richard Burr, one of the people accused, they actually agreed to go ahead and let an investigation happen. They actually called for the investigation, I guess, because it's going against, it's tarnishing their name or their ego right now. So they have to have their name cleared through the investigation now that everyone thinks that they've done insider trading. So we'll see what comes of the investigation, but you can tell that if they definitely sold millions of dollars of stocks a couple weeks ago, you could definitely tell that they definitely knew something was coming. And that's something that you guys need to look at, and you guys need to try to really tell what's coming as well, because we all pretty much knew about the coronavirus then. It's just we didn't know that it would be as big as it is now. And you can see right here, Dianne Feinstein's trying to play it off, saying that all of her assets were in a blind trust and that her husband controlled them all, so she couldn't control her husband's financial decisions. But really, I mean, if she goes home and tells her husband something, he could just then make the decisions. I mean, it's very, very easy stuff, guys. Insider trading happens all the time, and it's a very big thing to look at regarding the coronavirus, because it's something that's affected the market so much that I think that these senators should definitely be punished for the insider trading if they did indeed do it. And a huge piece of news, guys, I cannot stress this enough. The biggest piece of news is going to be that Trump is pondering halting stock trading this whole entire week and grounding U.S. passenger flights. If we ground all U.S. passenger flights, that means that any flight in the U.S. is no longer going to be running. Any airlines are going to be shut down, for example, because there's going to be like 50 people per flight plus. So that's going to be way too many people in one spot for these restrictions that are going into place in all of these states. And right now, I know that they're not letting people fly out of the country, but for right now, they might stop flights in the country as well, which would be a very, very big deal because all those airlines are they're already hurting now. They'll definitely be going way down. They'll definitely need some bailouts, just like the automakers did back in like 2010 area. It's something that will definitely hurt them, and they could definitely go out of business, and a ton of people could lose their jobs if the government does not step in and help them out. So Trump is pondering halting stock trading this whole entire week, and pretty much I'm just going to read this quick little paragraph here for you. In the wake of the coronavirus outbreak and a looming recession, U.S. President Donald Trump and his administration are contemplating halting the stock market next week. The White House is currently considering grounding all passenger planes and ordering a nationwide shelter. However, bureaucrats from the White House believe that the grounding of U.S. passenger planes and the execution of a federal lockdown order will wreak havoc on Wall Street. In order to curb panic, bipartisan U.S. representatives are considering plans to temporarily stop stock trading. That's something that will definitely send the markets into free fall if they stop the passenger planes and they issue a lockdown order. So that's something that will definitely affect the market. And if they do shut down the markets, expect a lockdown order to happen because it's something that they're definitely pondering. And if they really want the virus to stop spreading, they will have to lock us down. And it's something that you all just need to be prepared for. Like I said, you need 2 weeks to a month's water and food supply, and maybe some personal protection like some firearms, anything like that, just in case anything does happen, so you can get food if you need be by hunting or different means. But that's something that you cannot freak out too bad about, because you got to keep in mind that you're not going to let millions of people go hungry. They're going to leave the supermarkets open, of course. I've read that, but that's something that still, though, it's going to affect a lot of things because the supermarkets will run out of food very, very quickly. There's not people making the food. There's not people producing a lot of the food right now because a lot of the factories are shut down. A lot of the workers are home. All the unions called off work. So that's really a big thing affecting food production and like grain production. The farmers and everybody still need to be out. So if they have a nationwide lockdown, that could really affect food. It could affect water. It could affect everything. So keep in mind that this week is going to be a big week for the market, especially if we do have a lockdown or if we do ground all U.S. passenger flights. As I said in the beginning, this was going to be a long, crazy video. Thanks for sticking with me. These are definitely scary times, but with that said, this video is not meant to scare you, but to give you some insight on the possible lockdown and news regarding the markets with the possible trading halt. I hope you all come out of this okay. That's what's most important in these times. If you guys have any thoughts on the virus or if you want to challenge anything, definitely let us know in the comments below. At StockedUp, we will be carrying on business as usual. Thank you guys and be safe.